July 4 had always been a day of celebration and patriotic fervor in the small town of Willowbrook. With its red, white, and blue decorations, fireworks illuminating the night sky, and the annual parade that snaked through the streets, it was a day cherished by all. But this year, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the first firework cracked open the night, something sinister began to unfold. The air was charged with an eerie tension, felt by those who dared to venture outside. Sarah Miller, a local schoolteacher, felt her heart race as she stepped onto her porch to watch the fireworks. As the explosions painted the sky with brilliant colors, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The once jubilant cheers of the crowd seemed to grow distant and distorted, like a chorus of ghosts. A sudden gust of wind extinguished the candles on Sarah's porch, plunging her into darkness. She fumbled for her phone and turned on its flashlight, casting an eerie glow on the surroundings. The streets were now empty, and an unsettling silence hung in the air. Sarah's unease grew as she heard faint whispers carried on the wind, words that seemed to crawl into her mind with icy fingers. As the night deepened, the fireworks continued, their once dazzling bursts now taking on a twisted, malevolent aspect. Shapes formed in the smoke, twisted faces, skeletal hands, and distorted figures that seemed to writhe in agony. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as she stumbled back inside her house, the whispers growing louder and more insistent. Meanwhile, in the heart of town, the annual parade was underway. Floats adorned with cheerful bunting and marching bands playing patriotic tunes made their way through the streets. But the mood was far from celebratory. Faces in the crowd were etched with fear, and the once jubilant music seemed to slow and distort, creating an eerie cacophony that sent shivers down the spines of all who listened. As the parade reached its climax, the crowd watched in horror as the American flag atop the grand float twisted and contorted, its stars forming a nightmarish constellation that bore no resemblance to the familiar pattern. A sense of dread settled over the spectators as they realized that something had gone horribly wrong with this year's festivities. Back at her house, Sarah tried to drown out the whispers that echoed in her mind. She turned on the television, hoping for some distraction, but the screen flickered to life, showing scenes of chaos and destruction. The president's address, usually a message of unity and pride, had taken on a sinister tone. His eyes seemed to bore into Sarah's soul, and his words were a chilling proclamation of the nation's descent into darkness. Outside, the fireworks had intensified, each explosion sending shockwaves through the town. The air grew thick with an otherworldly mist, and the ground trembled as if the very earth was rebelling. Shadows danced on the walls, twisting and contorting into monstrous shapes that seemed to hunger for life. Sarah's heart raced as she realized that the whispers had become a relentless chant, a maddening litany that threatened to consume her sanity. Desperation gripped the town's people. They tried to flee, but the roads twisted and turned, leading them back to the heart of the nightmare. Communication with the outside world had been severed, and the town seemed to exist in its own malevolent bubble, cut off from reality. As dawn broke on July 5, the town of Willowbrook had been transformed into a nightmarish hellscape. The once picturesque streets were now a labyrinth of twisted alleys, and the buildings loomed like haunted monoliths. The remaining residents huddled in their homes, praying for salvation that seemed hopelessly out of reach. And so, Independence Day, a day that had once symbolized freedom and unity, had become a day of horror and despair. As the echoes of the twisted fireworks faded and the last of the shadows melted away, What remained was a town forever scarred by the darkness that had descended upon it. The whispers continued to haunt the minds of those who survived, a grim reminder that even the most cherished traditions could be tainted by the darkest of forces. The next story is going to start from now. A nation's nightmare, Independence Day unveiled. In the quiet town of Hollowbrook, nestled deep within the woods, the excitement for Independence Day was palpable. Residents eagerly awaited the grand celebrations, with the annual fireworks display being the centerpiece of the event. The sky was clear, the air buzzing with anticipation, and families set up picnic spots in the park, ready to revel in the festivities. As night fell, the first explosions of color illuminated the dark canvas of the sky. Oohs and ahs filled the air as the vibrant bursts of red, white, and blue painted a dazzling spectacle above. The atmosphere was electric, and Hollowbrook's residents couldn't have asked for a better start to their Independence Day celebrations. As the last of the fireworks painted the sky with a brilliant finale, a strange silence descended upon Hollowbrook. The cheers and laughter that had once filled the air were replaced by an eerie stillness. Confusion rippled through the crowd as people began to realize that something was amiss. Amelia, a young mother attending the celebrations with her husband and 2 children, scanned the crowd, her heart racing. She couldn't see her husband anywhere. Panic set in as she grabbed her children and began searching, calling out his name amid the growing unease that swept through the park. But it wasn't just Amelia's husband who had disappeared. Throughout Hollowbrook, families were discovering that their loved ones were nowhere to be found. The atmosphere shifted from one of jubilation to one of dread, as the realization of the mass disappearance settled in. Amelia, along with a group of other panicked parents, gathered at the center of the park. As they exchanged stories, a chilling pattern emerged. It seemed that everyone who had vanished had been looking up at the sky during the fireworks finale. Whispers of a mysterious phenomenon began to spread, casting a shadow over the once celebratory atmosphere. Rumors swirled about strange lights and unnatural shadows cast during the fireworks display. Some claimed to have seen glimpses of sinister figures lurking within the bursts of color. Fear escalated, and the townspeople became divided between those who believed in the supernatural and those who dismissed it as hysteria. Amelia couldn't shake the feeling that something inexplicable had taken hold of her town. She joined forces with a group of determined individuals who refused to accept the disappearance of their loved ones as a mere coincidence. Together, they delved into the town's history, hoping to uncover clues that might lead them to the truth. Their investigation led them to an old journal written by a town elder from centuries past. The journal spoke of a forgotten legend, a dark pact made by the town's founders on the first Independence Day. They had traded the souls of their descendants for prosperity and protection, sealing the deal with a ritual performed during the fireworks display. The group realized that the disappearances were the result of this sinister pact, as the souls of those who had gazed upon the fireworks were now being claimed. Determined to break the curse, they unearthed an ancient tome that detailed a ritual to reverse the pact. With time running out, the group embarked on a dangerous journey to undo the dark magic that had gripped Hollowbrook for centuries. Armed with knowledge and resolve, they reconvened on the next Independence Day. As the fireworks lit up the sky once more, they performed the ritual, chanting incantations and invoking ancient powers. A tremendous force swept through the town as the ritual took effect. The skies crackled with energy, and the very earth seemed to tremble. Slowly, the missing loved ones began to reappear, their forms emerging from the shadows that had claimed them. The curse was breaking, and the town was released from its nightmare. With the curse lifted, Hollowbrook began to heal. The town came together to remember the horrors they had faced, vowing never to forget the consequences of their ancestors' dark bargain. The annual Independence Day celebrations took on a somber tone, reminding everyone of the importance of freedom and the responsibility that came with it. As the years passed, Hollowbrook became a cautionary tale, a place where the boundary between celebration and malevolence had been forever altered. The legend of that fateful Independence Day served as a chilling reminder that sometimes even the most joyous occasions can hide the darkest secrets.